Welcome to the Pucks with Haggs podcast. This show is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. I'd also like to mention our sponsors, Gametime, the best ticket app to take guesswork out of buying college football tickets is with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Gametime app today. Thanks, as always, for listening to the Pucks with Haggs podcast, a proud member of the CLNS Media Network. Make sure to hit subscribe to the Bruins Rinkside YouTube channel and turn on notifications for when a new video drops on the channel. This is the 227th episode of the Pucks with Haggs podcast, so thank you very much, everybody, for listening. Today we have the Boston Herald, Steve Conroy, with us, and also longtime friend and colleague, Mick Colageo. Mick, please tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
My Rink Rap blog I link to on X and Facebook, and the Hockey News annual yearbook. I wrote the Bruins preview for that.
Make sure to check all of that out. Mick's stuff is great. So is Steve's over at the Herald. And I will start with you, Steve. Anything finalized last night in your mind? Anybody win or lose a job in last night's game in your mind in these last couple of games? I know cuts are coming. It seems like they're going to go to one group in the middle of this week. In your mind, anything you really solidified last night watching that game or the last couple of games?
Not really. It's what we thought at the start of training camp. There's a first line, there's a fourth line, and who knows what the middle six is going to be still.
Yeah.
Question is are Zacha and Mittelstadt going to play on the same line, or will they break them up and make Zacha the second line center and Mittelstadt the third line center? Will they keep Fraser Minten here? To be that third line center. Where does Matt Poitras fit into all of this?
Yep.
Is Matej Blumel actually going to be here? Or is he going to have to go through waivers to go to Providence? There's still they may know what they're going to do, but it's not that clear to me.
No, me neither. And there's still 2 games left to go, and I'm sure the guys that are on the bubble will be here all the way to the bitter end, I'd suspect, because they're going to get more looks at some of those guys. And a lot of them, those particular players that you mentioned, a lot of them, Steve, they've gotten a lot of looks. They've played in a lot of these games, and the Bruins have been able to get a long look at them. And it's, you see fits and starts, you see bits and pieces. It was a great shift by Poitras, Zacha, and Mittelstadt right before the Bruins scored that game-winning goal, or a game-tying goal, I should say, in the third period last night. That kind of set up Lindholm feeding Geeky on that 2-on-1 to score. And I definitely took note of that. I thought it was interesting after the game that Marco Sturm was talking about, the second and third line sort of in particular, moving pieces around there because he didn't necessarily think that the jump he was getting from those two was great. So he started moving pieces around, and special teams played into it a little bit, but I think he was also trying to try different combinations to see what sparked it. And it was interesting. Like I know last night it was Poitras with Mittelstadt and Zacha that seemed to spark the team in the third period with a great shift. Mick, your thoughts just on what we've seen to this point with, I'm in full agreement with Steve, Minten, Poitras, Mittelstadt, Zacha, there's a bunch of pieces here for the second and third lines. And you're not quite sure how they're going to fit Blumel too. And I'm sure they'll all be here trying to compete for that spot to the very end.
Yeah. There is a rumor coming out of Vancouver. Maybe it's just fans on social, but that they're looking at Casey Mittelstadt.
Okay.
And if I were the Boston Bruins, I'd be like, where do I sign?
Yeah.
Because they're trying like hell to get him going, and he just looks like he's struggling.
Yep.
He's just struggling to play
that
his
overtime
role,
shift.
do his
job.
job.
That was bad.
He almost lost the game twice on that overtime shift when he was trying to do everything by himself, and it was really bad. And it just looked to me like a player that is really struggling right now when I watched that overtime shift big time. Like he looked okay in the game a couple of preseason games ago. He had a couple of assists. He did okay, but like that overtime shift was hard to watch. You're right, Mick.
Mittelstadt had one early play where he made a D zone win of a puck near the wall and got it out of the zone. It felt to me like watching some Lysell games last year in Providence.
Yeah.
There was that one good play to say, oh, there you go. Okay, here it comes. And then the rest of the game, he just really struggled. And so I guess my impressions from last night was a choppy game, not very good of a game. I thought Alex Steeves played terrific. He took a whale of a hit to get a puck out of the zone.
Yep.
He played well
Yep.
in contact areas throughout, but I think he's so much the guy that you know exactly what you're going to get every night, that he is going to be earmarked for Providence. But they're going to keep an eye on him as to see if guys that they think have higher upside fail them. In which case, a guy like Steeves might become that Patrick Brown kind of player who's steady Eddie and gets his shot later down the road in what Pat Burns used to call training camp into the regular season. We think these decisions, they feel final, they seem final, they're not final. So yeah, there's drama involved here, but I think that the performance responsibility and accountability, all that continues into the regular season, and guys can't get too comfortable who are on that bubble, no matter where they were. The big letdown in Providence, guys can't afford to have it this year if they get cut, because they might get another chance.
Yeah. I definitely think there's going to be some fluidity as far as guys going to Providence and coming up to play this year, especially among the forward group. It definitely worth noting when Marco Sturm talked about putting Alex Steeves in a little bit more of a gritty sort of role because he thought he could handle it, and that he thought he could be that kind of a player in addition to being an offensive player in the AHL. And that does tell me that he's getting, a bit of a look as to the different things that he could do at the NHL level and different roles that he could play, and that he's a part of that sort of bigger picture of a bunch of these forwards and how they're going to all fit together eventually. So that kind of caught my ear when Marco Sturm was talking about that yesterday. I don't know about Mittelstadt getting moved. I think this Mittelstadt and Korpisalo to me are players that they're with you. You're not going to be able to move those contracts, especially when the performance doesn't match the salary that they're getting paid right now. And I think they just have to find a way to get his game going and put him in the best possible spot where you can take advantage of the flashes of offensive skill that he does have, Steve, because there are too many times that we've seen in a very short window of watching this player that he's really struggled or been invisible, one or the other. And both are actually pretty bad when you're a guy as skilled as he is, and kind of where he was drafted and the reputation that you expect a lot more when you're watching him.
Yeah, I mean, he was ironically one of the few guys from Buffalo who did not want to get moved when he got moved. He was actually gaining some career momentum in Buffalo. And then, he got moved to, a great situation in Colorado, and he actually performed pretty well in the playoffs there, performed well enough for them to re-sign him. And then somewhere along the way in the regular season, they decided he didn't fit, and they moved him to the Bruins, and it's minus 17 and 18 games here. It was not pretty. I think to get, and you're right, I don't think there's going to be any market for him unless they dump him. And I don't think it's worth it to dump him right now.
No. You'd have to give up good assets to trade a player like that and dump him.
Yeah. And what I would do is move him to third line center. It would be a nominal third line center where you would probably see the fourth line get a little more time than that third line. Let him get his feet under him. Let him get some games going. Develop chemistry with somebody, and try and get the best out of him. But yeah, right now it's not good enough.
No. First games last night for Pastrnak, for Hampus Lindholm, for Jeremy Swayman of the preseason. And it was a pretty good lineup that the Bruins put out there in that game last night. I was interested that they played it to my eyes. It felt like they were playing a lot of neutral zone trap at times, very much not forechecking and kind of hanging back and clogging up the neutral zone. It makes me wonder how much we're going to see that during the year. It was pretty effective. I think it bottled up at times the Philadelphia offense. They didn't have a ton of shots on net. I thought Pastrnak looked good. He was obviously a factor on both goals. He was out on the ice for the second one, and the first one he set up Sean Corrali after coming right out of the box. But I thought, he looked like he's ready to go. Hampus Lindholm, I thought actually looked really, really good too. And that's a very positive sign. If he's healthy and playing, like he was playing when he got hurt last year. Jeremy Swayman had ups and downs. I thought he had some good saves. That goal he gave up at the end of the second period where he was off his angle and got beat to the far post on, a shot from the outside from the dot. You just can't let that in. That's on him. But other than that, I thought, he was good during the game, and it was a good preseason, get your work in kind of effort for him. And he's just got to find a way to cut out those goals that he's allowed at with 30 seconds to go in the second period. Those are killers. We saw too many of them last year, and that needs to get out of his game, Mick.
I thought the first goal he said he got too cute.
Yeah.
It's a play goalies make a million times a year. They wait for a guy and then time it out so they bank the puck so that the on-rushing forechecker misses it and it goes to the Bruin teammate.
Yep.
He mistimed it, and that's rust. And that's and that led to that goal. I didn't feel like that was a perfect shot. Below the blocker, above the pad, and off the post, far side. It came from an area you don't want to see a goal. It came at a time you don't want to see a goal. But the mechanics of the goal itself, I felt like the failure was more on the Bruins who were in the vicinity of that player to deny him a clean fire from there. I thought that he was coming with speed and he had a stick inside and he had reached the circle. And then he snapped, he mitigated the distance by making a perfect accuracy. So I didn't have a problem with it. It wasn't a good look, but more for me, for the team than it was for Swayman.
Yeah. I think it was definitely both. I agree with you that there should have been more resistance or more pressure on taking away time and space on the guy with the puck. Rodrigo, I think he might be the first Rodrigo in the history of the NHL. I forget his last name, but I was like, Rodrigo. Abels. Thank you. But I think it's a little bit of both there. I think you got to find a way to make a save in those situations. If you're Jeremy Swayman and you're getting paid $8 million a year, I know
you're a hard coach, Joe.
I know, but the first one didn't bother me as much because I agree with you, Mick. I think that's a preseason play where he's getting in the flow of the play and working on things with his defenseman. I had less of an issue with that than I did with the second one.
Yeah, he's got to come up with a save there, and yes, you can blame the defenseman. I think it was Sweezy for letting that shot get off. But from where from where it came from on the ice, you got to find a way to get something on that. I thought he was really good in the third period and in overtime. So if he didn't want to admit that it was a bad goal, he played like he was trying to erase it.
Yes.
I'll buy that.
He played guilty hockey, which can be good sometimes, Steve. No doubt.
It was for him.
Yeah. So I thought it's his first preseason game. You're allowed some boo-boos. They're not going to win the Grapefruit League, so that's out the window. So he looked good. If we get the Swayman in the third period in overtime, then they'll be okay there.
Yeah, I agree. Thoughts, guys, on Lindholm and Pastrnak and the way that they looked last night?
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I thought they both looked good. I thought Pastrnak, very much looked like himself. Yep. He beat himself up a little bit on the pass he made to Elias Lindholm
Yep.
And said maybe I ought to force the shot there, but I thought he was very good, and I thought Hampus Lindholm was very good as well. He was having a very good season, despite of the house falling down around him last year.
Yep.
And it looked like he picked up where he left off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge development for the Bruins, Mick, that he looks like he's ready to go and back to himself.
Hampus looked like he was having fun. He
Yeah.
looked like he was so thrilled to be out there tooling around and just being Hampus Lindholm and being good on both sides of the puck. And he just seemed like a guy who felt the outdoor pond air wisping through his hair and his ears, and just feeling the tears start rolling down. When you get that cold air and you're out there, but you're loving it, and you're like a dog going swimming. It was
Oh,
just
Mick is
he
going to
just
his happy hockey place right now, Steve. We're losing him.
yeah, no, I mean, Hampus had joy in his game last night. It was fun to see. And good for him, no matter what happens with that kneecap. But um, as for Pasta, yeah, I totally on board here. I thought Pasta was pretty damn good for a guy who hadn't played in a while, and because his game is so uh, weird and creative. And so he doesn't imagine having to put my head inside his abilities and try to figure out how to do pasta out there. He just has an amazing way of bringing his teammates into it and also doing things when he needs to do things and feeling out the game and being the player he is. It's a joy to watch him play again too.
Yeah, no doubt. And worth noting too, I think Steve, you mentioned it. It was Brunet and Sweezy that were out there for both of those plays that end up in the back of the net. The first one was kind of a rough play for them too. The exchange with Swayman, and they were a little late getting to pucks and getting the coverage on front. But I thought they looked pretty good. Brunet had some good moments. He definitely looks like he's getting better and better as a young player. Sweezy had some big hits, did exactly what he's supposed to do, played physical, rugged D. I thought he played pretty well also. Thoughts on like what I mentioned at the beginning. It looked to me like there was a lot of trapping going on in that game last night. A lot of hanging back in the neutral zone, kind of clogging up that area, slowing things down. We heard about this a little bit in the summertime, that this is something Marco Sturm likes to do. This is something we're probably going to see more from the Bruins this year, especially if they have a hard time scoring goals. What did you think of that, Steve? And did you feel like it was more, because it felt to me like it's more than I've seen in Bruins past last night, and it felt like kind of a dress rehearsal for what we may see at times during the regular season as an approach to kind of clog things up and slow things down a little defensively anyway.
Yeah, I don't think they've made any created any secrets about the fact that if they're going to win, they're going to have to win ugly this year.
Yeah.
And sprinkle a couple of fights in there, and maybe it's not so ugly. But this is not. Aside from that first line, this is not a team that is going to wow you with overwhelming skill. So this is what we're in for.
Mick? Mick, I can't hear you.
I thought that, sorry about that. I muted because of the banging outside my window.
I can't hear anything.
No, really, that's amazing. They're taking down siding and they're starting to really hammer. Sounds like you walked in on high school basketball practice. There's, I thought with Deslauriers and Hathaway in the Flyers lineup last night that we were going to see a fight, and you knew that the Flyers were going to want to come in and win that game after what happened Saturday. Preseason notwithstanding. And then I noticed in the third period, hey, it's Jeannot and Deslauriers. They're out there. What's going to happen? What happens if the Bruins score a goal? Jeannot wins a puck. Corrali goes to the net and Pasta hits his stick perfectly. So it was nice to see a hockey play right there. But yeah, I thought for sure we were going to get some entertainment with a fight, and didn't happen. So I guess the preseason's not what it used to be. Gone are the days of the Flyers coming into Boston and Dave Schultz standing across on one half wall, looking clear across the rink at the other half wall at Mike Milbury, and putting his sticks, gesturing that he's putting his gloves down onto the ice. Come on, let's go, let's go. And Milbury standing in his Ken Dryden stance and just going, nope, not doing it. That was September 1976. I was there. Other people were fighting, but Milbury wasn't taking that one. I don't blame him.
I did think we were going to see something, especially after early. There was that exchange between Zadorov and Delorier when Delorier got the tripping call. It seemed like he was barking at Zadorov for going down too easy. As you know, as he was going to the bench afterward or going to the box afterwards, I thought for sure we would see something develop as a result of that. But it didn't end up happening. It was a physical game too. There was a lot of hits being thrown each way. It was just a good, hard, physical game. Philly was blocking a lot of shots too for a preseason game. I was impressed by that. All right, let's get to a couple of questions here. This is from J.E. Gordon. I was impressed with Eysimont's skill level in that New York game, the comeback win against the Rangers. Are we sure he's bottom six? I know half the team was P Bruins players, but that was a lot of turnovers in the D zone. Steve, Eyssimont to me is a perfect fourth line guy because he plays hard. He irritates other opponents by how hard he plays and how pesky he is. I don't think he takes a lot of stupid penalties. And I think he's got enough skill level and offensive upside that he's going to occasionally provide offense in that role, which is exactly what you want from a fourth liner, is a guy that plays hard and does have some of that skill where you sometimes wonder if he could play higher in the lineup because he will do some things, but that allows him to give you that secondary occasional offense that you absolutely need out of a really good fourth line. I think he's a perfect fourth line kind of guy, and I've thought that since the day he signed him. I think it's going to be a great signing for them.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good signing. I see him as a bottom six guy, and I can see him possibly on occasion, if he's going and Jeannot's not going, for them to flip there. But yeah, I definitely see him as a bottom six guy, and I think he's he doesn't see himself that way quite. He seems to think that maybe some of his skill has been overlooked at times in his career, and I think he made comments in Philly that, or maybe it was New York, that in the past he's had his wings clipped a little bit. So that's fine. You like players with chips on their shoulders who want to prove themselves. But I think he'll best be served in a bottom six role, whether it's the fourth or the third line.
Yep. Mick?
Steve makes it. Well, I love Steve's point here about Mikey Payne and the Eyssimont. We want him to be our pain in the Eyssimont, says Don Sweeney. They need this whole team to have a chip on his shoulder. They need to be like the Vegas Golden Knights first season. They need to come together with a sense of crossroads chemistry, of everybody's got something to play for, kind of like the movie The Replacements. We need guys who need redemption of some sort here. There's a whole handful of them on this team that have a lot to prove, and the Bruins can use every bit of that. I think that's the kind of soup Don Sweeney's trying to make here. So the lack of content by Eyssimont to play in a strict fourth line role in just 10 minutes a game or whatever that is, he probably loves that.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, and I think that's healthy. That's exactly what you want on a team is internal competition where guys are pushing each other, and a guy might be on the fourth line or the third line, but he's making plays and he's flashing things that, show he could play higher in the lineup. And it's healthy and good to have that where you feel like somebody could take your spot if you're not at the top of your game. And I think that goes throughout. I think that's the same way with the goalies. That's why I think it's important for Jeremy Swayman to have somebody that's an established NHL goalie that's his backup that can really push him in addition to supporting him as a tandem member. I think that goes all the way up and down the lineup. Great points, though, guys. Let's take a break to talk about our sponsors. PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America and the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Join over 10 million users and get started today. Instead of battling thousands of other players that could be pros or sharks, you simply pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll right in. It's fun, and it is super duper simple. PrizePicks also offers injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks won't count it as a loss. You can now win up to 2,000 times your money on PrizePicks. PrizePicks also offers Venmo, MasterCard, and Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Our picks for this week are Brock Purdy, more than 0.5 passing touchdowns. Puka Nakua, less than 100.5 receiving yards. And Baker Mayfield, more than 221.5 passing yards. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code CLNS and to get $50 in the lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in the lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it is good to be right. With football season here and hockey and basketball right around the corner, now is the time to dig into the Gametime ticket app. The app is super easy to use and has tons of great features for sports, comedy, concerts, theater, and all kinds of other tickets. And I can tell you, I went looking for concert tickets the other day for a show that I wanted to get to take my wife to, and Gametime popped up. No, I was looking at going to see Robert Plant when he's coming to town in like November, or whatever, because I've never seen him before. And I know he plays some Led Zeppelin songs, even when he does like the sort of folky stuff that he does now. So I was thinking of going and checking that out. And I can tell you right now, Gametime app had the cheapest options when I looked it up online. They are no joke. So I love the features. The fees are all included. You know, the total up front, no surprise fees at checkout. Zone deals save even more when you choose a section and let Gametime choose the seats. Favorite, you can snag new ticket deals before anyone finds out by following your favorite teams in the Gametime ticket app to receive alerts. Seat views, you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, and the lowest price guarantee or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Today's super deal is Saturday, October 4th. Bruins preseason tilt this weekend against the New York Rangers. Loge floor 7, row 5 for $127. And I can tell you there was a bunch of empty seats at last night's game against the Flyers, so there are good deals out there for these preseason games if you want to go watch a Bruins game. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Gametime app today. And for those of you listening to this episode of the Pucks with Haggs podcast, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like, and leave a review. And for those watching the show on CLNS and enjoying all this hockey talk, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the Bruins Rinkside YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Bruins content with fellow Bruins talkers like Connor Ryan and Evan Marinofsky. There's also the CLNS Media Network and Celtics All Access on CLNS, the NBA History Channel, Patriots Press Pass, and Bruins Rinkside YouTube channels as well. Also, please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the instant a new Pucks with Haggs podcast video drops on the interwebs. And by the way, the other one I was looking at was John Fogerty is coming to Boston in, I think it was November. If you're looking to listen to a little Creedence, Mick, you might be able to go see John Fogerty. You never know.
Haggs, you're digging into the classic rock here.
Oh, I love that. I mean, it's getting to the point, Mick, honestly, with some of these guys where, like, I've never seen them live, and it's like, I don't know how many more chances I'm going to get to see them live. So you kind of want to see, like, especially Robert Plant. Like,
what's the venue?
I want to say that was like the Schubert or something, or Wang.
Oh,
or
that'd be great.
Yeah, like it was a smaller,
I find Fenway to be tough, but
no. It was a smaller, more intimate kind of thing. Fogerty was going to be at that MGM music thing that's by Fenway, but that's actually a good venue to see music too if you haven't been there. It's like
it's a good spot.
It is.
What's
it's
that?
A small little music club.
It's a good spot.
It is.
Yeah.
So
I may see the Psych Furs there next month.
What's that?
The Psychedelic Furs are playing MGM Fenway on Friday, October 17th.
You're going to see the Psychedelic Furs?
Well, I've seen them like 5 times, but I may go because my pal, my contemporary from when we were kids together in the neighborhood, he wants to go see him, and so we're going to see if there's we may wind up working that out. I don't know. I was going to see Supergrass there, but they moved Supergrass to the House of Blues. So that's where I got Supergrass off my bucket list a few Friday nights ago.
Do they play Love My Way and Pretty in Pink every single time that you've seen them?
Not Pretty in Pink every single time that I've seen them, but Love My Way, yes. But they do not use a video of the hilarious scene from The Wedding Singer where the DeLorean door opens and it's the Miami Vice theme from Glenn Guglia.
That's
and
right.
then the door closes and it's Love My Way.
That's right.
That's a great scene. I love that movie.
It is.
Joe, you're right. You're right to see these artists before they leave us. I was able to see Sammy Davis Jr. The last time he was through Boston. He played down at Cohasset, and it was spectacular. And less than 2 years later, he was gone.
Circus.
Yep. Yeah. No, these people are legends for a reason, and like you want to be able to go see them before you can't. Like, there's so many people I regret never seeing live, like Stevie Ray Vaughan. Like, I wish I could have seen him before, he left way too early, because that guy was freaking amazing. Like, there's a bunch of people like Prince. I always wanted to see Prince, and I was never able to do that too. So there's a lot of them like that. So I kind of make it a point now when I can, if I see they're coming to town, to try to do that. You're absolutely right, Steve. I would have loved to have seen Sammy Davis Jr. Sing the Candyman and some of the other stuff there. Like, what was your favorite number that he did when you saw him that time?
Maybe Mr. Bojangles.
Okay. See, I would love to see that. That would be cool. That's awesome. All right. Let's get back into it. Cap 77 from my Boston Sports Journal Q&A always has some great questions. So we'll fire these, and it's always multiple questions too. So we will go through these. The Bruins were not as sharp as their jerseys early on in New York, but credit to them for an enjoyable comeback win. Watch the whole thing. Good stress test for Marco Sturm. I agree. And that was a sneaky important win, I thought, especially the way they looked in the first preseason game, just to get the vibes going in a good, positive direction. For training camp, for Marco Sturm being the coach, for like everything. I thought that was a tremendously important win, Mick, to get things off on the right track and to get sort of a good vibe to this training camp.
And it wasn't going the right way either.
No,
it really started with Adam Fox making a very sleepy play that Eyssimont did a great job recognizing. And then what's his BC star? Gabe Perreault came flyby, tried to steal the puck on a power play and get it going the other way. And Eyssimont faked him out and then and then he roofs the backhand Ray Bork style. It was awesome. And next thing you know, the Bruins feel life and the game turns right there. And the third period, the Bruins needed something like that. It's hard to say in the preseason that this, but I think that this team, from a psychological standpoint, I think you're right. I don't think we should undersell this, that they need moments that will make them believe in one another and themselves.
And believe in a new coaching staff too, believe in that Marco Sturm is going to come in here and help change things. And like, I think it was important on all those levels, Steve, to get things, especially I just did not like the first preseason game. I thought it was too much of what we've seen previously. And for them to respond to that, I thought was a really, really great sign.
Yeah, results don't matter in the preseason, but vibes do, especially as you said, with a new coaching staff, and this disparate group of players. You got young players, you got 3 or 4 players that they signed, a couple of players who missed most of last season. So yeah, that's, to me, that's the number one question about this team. Aside from the personnel stuff, is are they going to be able to come together as a team and become greater than the sum of its parts? It takes a lot, and it takes moments like that to move it in the right direction.
Yep, it absolutely does. I 100% agree. And Mikey Eyssimont, huge part of that. Like his play, shorthanded play, and that shorthanded goal, and him stripping Adam Fox on a great effort play, and then a great individual finish. it really turned the momentum in that game and completely changed the way the game was going. So full credit to him for stepping up and being a veteran, making a couple of big plays there at the end of that game in the third period. We're 4 preseason games in. Cap 77 is asking whose stock has risen or dropped significantly with 4 preseason games in the book, Steve?
I don't know if anybody who's going to make the team stock has risen. The one player's stock that's risen, I believe, is Frederick Brune's.
Yep.
I think he's a legitimate prospect who could see legitimate NHL action before the end of the season, depending on health and all that. Beyond that, I don't think anybody's, jumped out. Matt Poitras, he made the team the last 2 years because he deserved to make the team the last 2 years. He played very well in camp. He just seems betwixt and between right now. And Sturm has said this about several of them, that he's thinking too much and not just playing. And I think that's a problem. And I think that he's probably going to have to do some time in the AHL to get out of his own way and start playing hockey again, more instinctively than he is right now. I think Fraser Minten is, pretty much as advertised. It wouldn't kill me to see him go down to Providence, but I'd be more than comfortable watching him learn on the job, because I don't think he'll kill you. He may not provide as much offense as you want, but I think he's a very smart, instinctive player.
Yeah. If they have any notions, if Marco Sturm has any notions whatsoever of the third line being any kind of a checking line going up against the other team's top line, I think Fraser Minten is the better choice for that kind of a role for sure. And I think he does a lot of different things well away from the puck and a lot of details to his game that would add to that. Poitras is a different kind of player. And I agree with you. I think Poitras looked good, but I think it would not hurt him at all to go down and have more development time in the AHL. And really, I think you want him in a role where he's with offensive-minded players and you can take advantage of the playmaking and the way he views the game. Mick, your thoughts on this? I'll just say quickly, one guy who I think helped himself at least a bit in that second game was Johnny Beecher. That game in Philly, he was not good in New York at MSG as first preseason game. Scores a goal on a nice effort playing all the way to the whistle, strips a puck and scores. I thought he was good on the penalty kill. I thought he showed himself a little more of like what he can do, and showed himself to the coaching staff and to Marco Sturm in particular, like when he's at his best, what kind of player he's going to be. Now, do I think he's going to end up winning a roster spot or at least be in the starting lineup on this team opening night? I don't think so. I think there's too many good players here on the fourth line in particular that he's going to be there unless there's an injury. But I do think he's somebody that has at least helped himself a little bit, while other guys like Fabian Lysell, Merkelov, other players just continue to not establish themselves. It's pretty clear to me that Blue Mel and Steves and guys like that are going to be getting a lot more of a look and many more chances than those kind of players are.
Boy, that's a lot. I'm not thrilled with Blue Mel's game. I feel like this guy just tries to shoot the puck from everywhere possible. And because he's got a great shot and he misses a lot trying to do that. I thought the last time I saw him play, he played a lot more under control, but that version of him is meh, so
yeah.
I'm
just not sure with him. I'm not sure he brings much to the table aside from shooting the puck after watching him a few times. I'm not sure there's any other.
That's my point is I think he can play hockey, but what he does when he's not shooting the puck is not compelling at theater. Right. It's just another player out there. So I don't see him winning pucks. I don't see him setting, making good body plays when there's breakouts and doing things to get in guys' way. Or I don't see a winning player there in the NHL if this guy isn't filling the net with pucks. I look at a guy like Patrick Brown scoring that gorgeous goal coming down the middle, going to one knee and rifling that shot. If Blue Mel makes that shot, social media is going nuts and saying the Bruins are stupid to hold this guy back. And to say the same thing if Lysell made that shot, but it was Patrick Brown, so it was like, oh God, Patrick Brown ain't there. Okay, so we move on from that and we get to somebody else and we say, okay, some of the other goals we've seen, the stuff that Eyssimont did, or the 2 goals that Dalton Bancroft scored in Philadelphia. And now if those are Blue Mel goals, Blue Mel's already, in the race for the Maurice Richard Trophy. So, but because there's preconceived notions in the white noise buzz world out there that this guy is the guy that's going to change everything, and it's unfair to him. But he wants it. Of course he does. Why wouldn't he? Steves is a completely different kind of player. Much more of a straight up skater, a good guy in traffic who makes little plays and does very well in all the areas that help you not lose games. Can he score in the NHL? Who the hell knows? We haven't seen it. As far as I guess the games aren't telling me that guys aren't winning or losing jobs as much as an emerging sense of how this is going to go based on management's decisions about where guys not changing their minds. I don't think guys have changed their minds. I think management had an idea of what this team's going to be, and I think they're pretty much going to stick to it with a couple of really interesting bubble questions like Matt Quattro. Those are really interesting seesaw questions right now. But other than that, at the end of the day, I think that there's nobody who's playing in a way that's changing their minds. I think management's design on this team is pretty much what it's going to be coming out of the gate on October 8th.
Yeah, I think you're pretty bang on there. Can you imagine what the Bruins prospect gurus would have been like on social media, Mick, if Fabian Lysell had scored the kind of goal that Jeffrey VL scored? Can you imagine how
Perfect
crazy?
Example. Perfect example.
They're really give that guy top line right wing, move Pastrnak down to the second line. He's ready to take.
We got to be honest here and say that the guys that they want to score these goals are not scoring them, and the guys that they are earmarking for Providence are scoring these goals. Yeah, that's what's happening right before our eyes.
Well, I mean, you mentioned Bancroft. We should mention him. Like, he played great in that game, and he was another one that showed he can shoot the puck. He absolutely looks like a shooter, and he's got the size. And like when you talk to him, he talks about like sort of watching video of Tom Wilson, and that's how he wants to play. And like, there's definitely, he's not going to shy away. It feels like to me from the physical element to either or playing to his size. That's a guy that I think is going to be very intriguing down in Providence, given his skill set and given his size and given his age, frankly, too. He's ready for that. Like, he's ready to really fully develop now. He's an older college guy coming out.
Yeah, like Blue Mel and Steves, he's going to turn 25 this winter.
Yep.
So there's a lot of guys entering the second critical stage of their careers. It comes earlier for Bancroft as a pro, having just gotten finished with Cornell.
Okay, let's move on. I assume cleaning up the defensive zone is a priority for the Boston Bruins. I would say, and this was sent a little bit earlier before the last game or two, I would say in the preseason. I would say, guys, that I've liked much more what we've seen out of the defensive zone and out of the defensemen over the last couple of games. And it feels like they're on the right track. And even Zadorov, I think, has played much better after, he had some rough turnovers in that first game as well. I maybe it was my imagination. I don't know, guys, but like it felt to me like Zadorov, and watching him last night especially, was not roaming away from the net as much as he did last year and was sort of playing traditional defenseman, play to my strengths. I mean, his block shots in overtime, they don't get to the shootout if he doesn't have that great penalty kill shift on the 4-on-3 in overtime. And I've really liked what I've seen out of Zadorov to this point in the preseason after a shaky first game, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage of his career, you have to accept that he's always going to be a little adventurous every now and then. But you just got to, keep that to a minimum. He had one exchange with McAvoy at the start of the game that was that was a little squirrely, but they hadn't played together all camp, and So, it's preseason, yada, yada, yada. I still don't know, what these pairs are going to be. I don't know that Mason Lohrei can play with McAvoy and see the lines that they're going to play.
Yeah.
Maybe they envision Lindholm and Peak being the pairing that will face the top lines, but there's still a second line, and so and I can't imagine McAvoy essentially being relegated to a third pairing. So it looks like they're going to stick with these pairings, but I'm not sure how well they're going to work.
Mick.
A lot of times teams go for balance in the regular season. They try to establish three balanced pairings and try to test and see if under regular season, month to month, that they can play three pairings. And before they get into that part of the season where the minutes are going to go up for the guy who's always on the power play or always on the penalty kill, and see what guys are capable of on a balanced sheet. The Bruins, from a personnel standpoint, are extremely categorized by a top four. So Yoki Haru would be the top four guy, and Peak would be the third pairing right shot. So, and Lohrei, presumably, or Jordan Harris would be the third pairing left shot. Whether or not Sturm goes into the season the way I got it laid out in my head on the line chart, if you go to daily face-off, for instance, and see how they put the uniforms down, then they kind of look at what the last game was, and so you get to see, wow, this was really kind of weird. Like Bruins line chart that they hand out right before the game. So I think there's gonna be this is a lot of experimenting going on, a lot of fact finding, so they can figure out what they can do. But I also think I'd be remiss right now not to note that it didn't take Marco too long to settle in on Elias Lindholm between Morgan Geekie and David Pastrnak.
Yep.
That's really where this is headed. And then our most recent iteration, you start having this second line that looks, they're going to look at that. They've looked at other stuff earlier. We got a few more games here left. I'm interested to see what will happen in the top six, to see if he's going to continue along trying to get it settle into a groove here, or whether or not he's going to continue trying to figure some things out. Because once that's established, then the holes and opportunities to make the team in the bottom six get very small.
Yep. And I will say, we haven't really mentioned him at all today. Morgan Geekie, 2 goals in 2 home preseason games, and I think looks like he's going to score 30 goals again this year, especially if they're playing on a line together. Like, he looks ready to go, looks just as good as he did last season, just as confident shooting the puck, and the goalies are having just as hard a time containing his shots and getting that release and being able, like, he just beat Vladar's glove hand with that shot. Vladar couldn't get the glove where it needed to be, and he just got it over his arm. It was a filthy shot that he finished on Vladar last night. All right, last question from Cap 77. I'll change it a little bit, but he was asking me about my Bruins predictions for this season, and I will just say, anything in this preseason to this point that's changed anything about where you think this Bruins team is headed this year, Mick?
No, I think I'm impressed with McAvoy and Lindholm to the point that I'm kind of buying into their good health. And to
Yep.
me, that was the one X factor that I needed to get over the hump to believe in their ability to defend. And I like Swayman, I like them, I like everybody on the back end. I'm feeling like this is going to be a good situation for them, and scoring is going to be the hard part. And so to me, that makes them a bubble team. The only teams that sink to the lottery can't defend. They can't keep
Right.
the puck out of their net.
Or
The
don't have
Bruins are not that team this
severe
year.
goalie problems. Yeah, if they can't defend or they have serious goalie issues. Those are the teams that are always at the bottom. I honestly felt like last night, like I felt like that's a game we're going to see a lot this year. 3-2 shootout loss. Not just not quite enough offense, or it's a flip of the coin to see if they win or lose to get the extra point. To your point, Mick, I agree with you that the healthy defense, Swayman, like all that stuff. I think we're looking at a team that is going to vie for the wild card, play meaningful games at the end of the regular season, may or may not make it. But I think this will be better than I think the large portion of the fan base thinks they're going to be. Steve, anything?
The Bruins haven't had a lot of loser points over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Loser points this season need to be their friend. Even
Yep.
if we're disappointed in those outcomes in the moment, those loser points will help them.
Yep. Steve?
Yeah. They look like they are what most of us think they are. They're a part of that great middle of mediocrity.
Yes.
And it depends how they come together, whether they can be a little more than that. And if they don't come together, they're going to be a little less than that. I think they've got enough competitive guys on that team that they're going to push for a wild card spot. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the Atlantic Division. I don't think Florida is going to fall off a cliff, but
No.
You don't lose a guy like Barkov and miss Tkachuk for the first 2 months of the season and not have it affect the outcome.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they hang on. But yeah, they're if they get a wild card, it would be a great season for them.
Yep. I think that's the ultimate high upside. Wild card, get in, maybe a hot goalie can win you a round or two, but most likely a first round casualty and sort of get a good feeling going again. And then, then you start bringing in the young talent to add to what they already have here. And you're going to have some money to spend too, in what could be a loaded free agent class. But I think that is the ultimate upside. And I think they're capable of it. I think as the season goes on, fans will buy into what the team is selling, what Marco Sturm is selling, that the team plays hard. And, it's going to be the kind of team that I think fans are going to be perfectly fine with forking over the money to go watch them play. So thank you very much, guys. Let's give our thanks to our sponsors real quick. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Show is also brought to you by Gametime, the best ticket app to take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. You can get them for as low as $25. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Gametime app today. You are listening to this episode of the Pucks with Haggs podcast, and we are a proud member of the CLNS Media Network. Make sure to hit subscribe to the Bruins Rinkside YouTube channel and turn on notifications for when a new video drops on the channel. Steve and Mick, thank you very much for joining us today.
Always
awesome.
Guys.
Everybody else out there, see you at the rink. Thanks for listening.